Now, the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture has heard that notices have been sent and received by ANC Secretary General Magashule and former Free State Agriculture MEC Mosebenzi Zwane, informing them that they've been implicated in evidence at the Commission. The Commission, sitting in Parktown, Johannesburg, is today hearing from evidence from former Free State Economic Development MEC Mxolisi Dukwana. For more, let's cross to our reporter Manqoba Mchunu. Manqoba, a clear sign then that, of course, the two gentlemen indeed being implicated here, Mosebenzi Zwane and Ace Magashule. Indeed, Ace has been in the firing line for quite some time by the seams of it in terms of allegations put against him. The word then thus far from the state capture inquiry.
Well, certainly, Arabile, that is what we're hearing. Those are some of the names that have come up as some of those people who will be implicated by this evidence of the former MEC for Economic Development, Mxolisi Dukwana. Of course, we do know that there's a list of about 30 of those implicated people that have received notices from the Commission. And among them, of course, is the name of the former Free State Premier, Ace Magashule, as well as the name of the former MEC of Agriculture, Mosebenzi Zwane, and also the name of the Manqoba Mayor, Mxolisi, also coming up, but also mentioning, other high-profile names also coming up in this evidence, but of course all of them have been given notices that they have been implicated. But there is one evidence in particular that is problematic here before the Commission, and that is the evidence of an unidentified person at this stage, only known as Mr. X. Of course, his lawyers have come up before the Commission, his lawyers, Advocate Mark Helens, arguing that, the evidence that will be led here about his witness is purely speculative and that it could possibly harm his reputation. He says that he doesn't want the Commission to either identify him or to continue listening to this testimony, which he says at this point is purely speculative and could possibly harm his witness. Let's take a listen to his arguments here before the Commission.
My client denies any involvement. He says, no one has asked me for a version before. No investigators have interrogated me. I tender my bank statements. I tender a complete investigation by the Commission with myself personally in attendance. And all I ask is that before you ruin my reputation and my career, you postpone this evidence, not as a whole necessarily, but with regard to me, and investigate this case properly.
The identification.
Yes. And we go on to say that it's recklessly gathered with regard to our client.
Reckless is the sentiment there from the evidence leader on that front, Manqoba. How true is the sentiment, however, following through from that wording?
Well, at this stage, it's very hard to gauge, Arabile, because number one, we have not been told who this Mr. X is. It's only speculative. We do know that previously Advocate Helens has previously represented Duduzane Zuma as well as the Gupta family here at the State Capture Commission. But at this point, we don't know who his client is. And of course, one can only speculate. But at this point, we don't want to do that because, it could, also not be a correct way of, if we get it wrong, for example. So at this point, what we can say, Arabile, is that the chair, it does somehow take their submissions into account, saying that, he believes that, then there should be an opportunity afforded to this so-called Mr. X to be interviewed by the evidence leaders and just to hear his side of the story with regards to some of the claims or some of the evidence that could likely implicate him. And what he says really is his version with regards to that. Let's listen to what the chair had to say on it.
Mr. Dukwana is here to advance the constitutional mandate of this commission. He's here without fear or favor. And under no circumstances should this commission treat anybody with kid gloves. We are in concert with Mr. Mkwena that the chair should be afforded an opportunity to go through the statement, after which the chair will be in a position to listen to the submissions that will be advanced by Mr. Helens SC with Mr. Dial SC. And then certainly we stand ready to make our submissions.
Yes.
And we do not want a situation where this commission would hear the evidence of Mr. Dukwana interrupted.
Saying that he doesn't want the message and the setting then for Mr. Dukwana to be interrupted at any point in time, even at some stage saying it may even make a mockery of the commission. Clearly, the SC there, Mr. Mokoena, laying out his sentiment truly.
Let me just put the previous soundbite that we just listened to into context. The person that was speaking there, of course, is the legal representative of Mr. Dukwana, who has just been sworn in just before we break for lunch here at the Commission. And of course, he's saying that Mr. Dukwana himself is willing to give his testimony without fear or favor here at the Commission, and that really, he doesn't see a reason why he should be treated with, kid gloves, to call it, because he says there have been other witnesses here who have been implicated before. Even the former President Jacob Zuma, when he came here, he wasn't treated with special treatment here at the Commission. But of course, the chair saying that there should be fairness afforded to all those who are implicated at all times, and saying that of course that this issue then needs to be taken up by the evidence leaders insofar as speaking to the implicated person, or Mr. X as is called here. Let's listen in.
My inclination is to say we continue to seek to strike a balance between ensuring fairness to implicated persons, but also ensuring that as far as possible we are not unduly hampered in the work that the Commission has to do. My inclination is that where we are dealing with a person who says, before you mention my name publicly in regard to something like this, I'm here, I'm cooperating, you haven't spoken to me, come and speak to me, and I will cooperate. My inclination is to say, if the Commission hasn't done that as yet, it should rather do that. And if at the end of that exercise, the position is still that the position doesn't change, then one can take it from there.
Manqoba, thank you so much for that indeed. Joining us out from Parktown there at the state capture inquiry. Of course, we'll continue to get more updates across the day. Certainly, the sentiment is being strongly advised then to perhaps share more truths. And that is exactly what we're getting even out of the Free State as well.